author of the new weekly column on All Star called Simoun Says. If you guys haven't checked that out yet, well, it's a good recap of what's happening right now in the PBA postseason, but also some other important basketball matters, considering that the NBA has begun, or rather, NBA Media Day has already taken place, and also UAAP and everything else going on. So I'm excited to get to this episode with Simone because we're going to talk about some essential UAAP questions that I feel are worth asking right now as we get close to the end of the first round. This is part one. Part two is actually going to take place on Wednesday afternoon at 1:30, and for that, we are going to have a friend of this podcast, Nico Rocha, on to discuss some other questions. So, I want to bring Simon in already, but before we do so, I am proud to announce that the Navs Effect podcast has officially partnered with Finn Cotton, one of the best local shoe brands in the country today. Yes, Finn Cotton, proudly Pinoy, one of the up-and-comers, shall we say, in the shoe game. And I want to show you guys more about what they're about. So, here's a little bit to know about Finn Cotton.
Lahat ng mga kababayan natin dyan, disenyong Pinoy. Kaya yan, napakaganda at very affordable at napakatibay din.
Disenyo ng Pinoy para sa Pinoy.
Dinisenyo ng Pinoy para sa Pinoy.
Dinisenyo ng Pinoy para sa Pinoy.
Disenyong Pinoy para sa mga Pinoy.
One of the best seller nila sa Fin Cotton, napaka-quality.
Ganda.
Ako wala.
Ganda din.
Ay, maganda.
Cotton. Ganda ng shoes namin. Available. Lazada, Shopee, Zalora.
SM meron.
COD. Pwede.
Physical store meron sila.
Subukan nyo. Bago.
Napakaganda. Napakagaan. Elegante. Diba? Sporty.
Proudly Pinoy.
Proudly Pinoy.
Yes, Finn Cotton, proudly Pinoy. And I have to say, quality is really good. The design is awesome here. Check it out. And I am excited to partner up with these guys. I've worn them too. They're comfy, they're cozy, and they're local. Proudly local. Make the step, make it Finn Cotton. And by the way, listeners of this podcast get a discount. So, I'm going to share more info about that later. But yes, you get a discount by being a listener of the Navs Effect podcast. So, your next shoe purchase, make it Finn Cotton. Simoun Redoblado of All Star Magazine now joins us. Simoun, I have to tell you, I haven't podcasted in 3 days, so I might have more energy than usual. Thank you for joining me on this lovely Tuesday evening. I'm glad to have you here. So, how does it feel to be officially a columnist for a sports website publication in the Philippines? How are you feeling about that, bro?
I'm not gonna lie, it's a bucket list thing. Thank you so much, Navs, for giving your blessing, giving the green light in order for me to be able to express my opinion, unwarranted or warranted, perhaps on a weekly basis. And like I said in my very first column, it's mostly going to be the musings of a diehard hoops junkie, but every now and then I might just opine on certain other things like combat sports, pro wrestling, which was actually my first love. So we'll see how it goes. But thank you for this opportunity, Navs.
Well, if you use words like opine, I think you'll be just fine with your column, man. I think that's going to be awesome. Okay, let's get to some UAP topics here. But first, I do want to shout out the members of our community joining in tonight. I already see Tonyo, of course, Luigi, Jong, JM, Jack, JM. I wonder how you're feeling about your Knicks getting Towns a few days later. I'm excited to watch the Knicks, but apparently they can't talk about that trade yet. Unfortunately, Jam is here too. Jam, thanks. And Daddy G is here. What's up, Daddy G? I like that nickname, Daddy G. Very creative. But okay, let's get to the first question here, Simone. Now, the reason why I wanted to ask this first question is because a few days ago, after LaSalle beat UST, aside from the fact that not UP fans, but one or two in particular decided to be like, oh, you're biased for LaSalle, even if, LaSalle won the game and they were the only ones in the media room, which is why that was the first content we came out with, just putting that on the record. There was a quote by Coach Topex about facing the UP Fighting Maroons. And I want to read it because I thought it was respectful, but at the same time also aware of where both teams are right now, where UP is, where LaSalle is. Coach Topex kind of alluded to the fact that this is a good opportunity for DLSU to have an idea where they stand as well in the UAAP race. So here's the quote that stood out to me in particular. We are excited, Topek said, about DLSU's upcoming game versus UP. UP is going to be somebody we're going to learn from. We never really call them our enemy. We always call them as our worthy rivals because their strength is our weakness. I wonder if that's like, one of those metaphorical things Coach Topex likes to utilize once in a while, or it's something basketball related, right? Right? We just want to enjoy playing against that mighty team. I know what, well, I don't know, but I have a feeling what Coach Topex is doing here, and that's basically like, you know, calming down that fire that usually comes with a lot of these finals rematches and really just looking at it from a steady approach mental mindset. Worth noting, UP is playing UST on Wednesday. We're recording this on Tuesday. So when they face LaSalle on Sunday, UP will be coming off 3 days rest. LaSalle, before that game on Sunday, the last time they faced an opponent, also UST, was a week before this past Sunday. But given how both teams have performed so far, given that UP has dominated the opposition, heck, even the game they were down by 22 points, 31-9 in the first half, they still somehow won by double digits, right? And given that LaSalle has, had good moments, but also had troublesome moments like the loss against UE, like the close game against FEU, like that close game against NU, people are starting to wonder, hey, is LaSalle an underdog in this game? Is because we talked so much in the preseason about how about UP and LaSalle are the two teams that are coming in as clear-cut favorites to win the championship this season, right? But given how both teams have performed so far, Simon, would you go as far as to say that LaSalle is entering this game as an underdog against UP?
I had to look up the definition of underdog, Navs, and across different dictionaries, when you say underdog, you're referring to someone that is expected, okay, to lose a competition, to lose a game. Someone that is really not favored, very not expected to come out on top. And I don't think, therefore, that LaSalle is an underdog in that sense against UP because we could nitpick certain statistics that would tell us that UP, especially in terms of offense, is ahead of the LaSalle right now. But if you're trying to paint the picture of the Green Archers as this Rocky Balboa figure that needs to come from behind and is definitely a level below or couple of steps behind UP, that's really not the case because if you look at the statistics, okay, yes, as of 3 games, thank you, Sir Pong, for the statistics. As of the first 3 games for each team, yes, UP does lead the entire league in terms of statistics like field goal percentage, okay, assists. What are these other statistics here? 3-point field goal percentage, which actually surprised me. In my opinion, that just basically tells us that in a league where there are so many raw players shooting from beyond the arc, or like their skills are not that refined yet in terms of shooting beyond the arc, UP fails the least. That's really how I look at it. I was surprised to see them leading the specific category. But even if you look at UP being on top of all those specific statistics, the fact is De La Salle University is not that far behind. And in fact, if you take a look at statistics in terms of defense, again, through the first 3 games, we see that Salle is actually leading UP in certain categories, key categories like 3-point field goal percentage allowed, okay, fast break points allowed. LaSalle apparently leads UP in terms of not letting their opponents score more points on transition. Okay, so it's going to be a tight race to the finish, but I'll take this opportunity to say this. Championship or bust is a very appropriate tag to place for both of these teams, perhaps especially for LaSalle because they're the defending champions. So I'm looking that far ahead to a scenario like Game 2 or Game 3. And I have to say this, okay? We'll find out then whose loss is weightier, is heavier, has more gravity. Would the loss of Malik Diouf in terms of being a supreme rim protector for UP be more significant than the losses of Evanelli and Mark Nonoy as ball handlers and players who hit such timely shots, especially in the clutch? I think when we get to that last chapter of this very, very exciting season that we've had so far, that's when we'll know whether the loss of Diouf or the losses of Nelly and Nonoy would be more significant for either team.
Simon, I was thinking about this a little bit ago, and by the way, thank you for those thoughts. Excellent thoughts. That Nelly absence, I think, will be really tested against UP's defense. One thing about the UP defense this season is they're not relying just on creating turnover opportunities anymore, right? Last season, the last few seasons, one of the things that opposing coaches and players of other teams at least told me was that if UP is talented, they're very deep and they're very good. But if there's one way you can put yourself in a position to beat them, it's to avoid them from getting out in fast breaks, avoid them from running the basketball, make them play a half court kind of game. And when you look at games 2 and 3 of the finals last season, LaSalle was able to do that, right? LaSalle with Michael Phillips holding down the fort defensively and the veterans really stepping up, bringing the physicality, was able to control the pace of the game, particularly Evanelli. And that's why I say that Evan's absence will be tested on Sunday because Evan was able to, have an idea where the game was going in terms of, okay, bumibilis ba, bumabagal ba, nagiging physical, is it becoming more of a shooting contest? And Evan will be like, okay, let me let me navigate the shot clock and use it to what works for our team. And right now, I don't think LaSalle has that guy yet. And I don't expect them to throughout the whole season, to be honest, because that's something you only learn when you've been playing college basketball long enough. And at that point, Evanelli had been a 6-year veteran, including the time he had to do residency after moving out of San Beda. So, one of the weak points I would say of LaSalle this season so far, ironically, is the rim protection. And that starts with perimeter defense. Okay? Yes, Michael Phillips is there to defend the rim. Now, Henry Aguinane admittedly hasn't been caught up to speed quite to the level where I feel LaSalle needs him to be yet to be the contender they want to be. But it's easier to score against LaSalle when you get past their perimeter defenders, whether by spreading the floor, screen and roll action, and then getting Phillips to commit from the paint, to guard the penetrator, thus leaving offensive rebound opportunities. And that's one way NU was able to hurt DLSU in that season opening game. And also that's been able to lead to rotations, flow of the ball, open shots. UP has been the best paint attacking team so far in the UAAP this season. It's starting to feel deliberate on the Fighting Maroons' part that they're making an effort to get to the rim rather than settle for outside shots. Now, did that finals performance last season have something to do with it where they struggled games 2 and 3? I don't know. Maybe. Maybe it was one of those lessons learned instead of taking losses that a lot of the good coaches and teams like to say. But they are making an effort to get out on the break. Now, some of that is because they're forcing turnovers and fast break opportunities. It's easier to score in the paint. But I think offensively, half court as well, you're seeing a team that's long, that's physical, that's big, and taking advantage of that by attacking the rim and scoring at will against their opponents. Now, how will LaSalle handle that? Aguinaldo needs to step up in this game. Very important. Very important. It can't be all on Phillips. It can't. And by the way, who wins that rebounding battle between Phillips and QMB now? That is something I am very excited to watch out for. But
I
to
want to
go
watch
back to
that.
the ultimate question, is LaSalle an underdog against UP? No, they're not. They're the defending champions. They are only one game back in the loss column. They are not an underdog against UP. Now, they will probably be an underdog according to some websites where you can maybe invest in sports. I'm not gonna go into specifics, of course. You guys, if you know, you know. But in terms of the old school eye test, the old school feel of the game, is LaSalle an underdog to UP? Nah. UP might be a little more talented, a little deeper, but you can't call one an underdog over the other. Before we move on to the next topic, Simon, I do want to shout out our friends from the community. More have come on including our guy Enzo from Australia. Enzo, what's up? And Ron, of course. And great thoughts, guys. Keep sending them in the comment section. You guys are welcome to join us on the stage as well. And by the way, to our friend Daddy G, I've had 3 coffees today. The third one was by accident. Quick, just story. So I got a coffee for my wife, and I had just had the coffee like a few minutes prior, and I'm like, oh my god, she can't have normal milk. Her stomach starts to ache. So I need to get her another coffee with almond milk or oat milk instead. But I had a coffee in my hand. I'm like, well, I guess I'm gonna drink this. And thus here we are doing a podcast episode. Sorry about that. Just wanted to share that story. But now we move on to the next topic of our conversation with Simon. Simon, I'm going to list to you the other 6 schools playing in the UAP right now who aren't considered title contenders. That's UE, that's Adamson, that's Ateneo, that's UST, that's FEU, that's NU. It's so balanced in the middle towards the end of the standings with all these teams competing, winning over one another. So my question for you, Simon, of those 6 options, and I want our spectators to answer this question as well. Of those 6 options, is there one or maybe 2 teams that you could say we can take out the Final Four contention? Or do you believe that all 6 of these teams are capable of making the Final Four? And again, to the spectators, let us know in the comments. Go, Simon.
I think, Navs, right before my column takes off, we're going to start alienating certain members of our community because I'm about to say a couple of names that would not be to their liking at all. Okay, so first, I wanted to just put a bow around that first question of yours. You mentioned old school and you mentioned UP. Every time I watch them, I'm thinking, am I watching a 90s game? So many attempts to enter the ball into the post. They're looking to dump the ball right into the paint, and we're slowing the game down. So very old school. But now let's go straight to the second question. Okay, let's do this by process of elimination because I'm afraid of my online career being killed before it even gets started. Okay. I think firmly in contention for the Final Four. So, of course, assuming that UP and LaSalle have secure spots, okay, in the postseason. I firmly believe that UST will snag that third spot. They're that deep, they're that balanced, and despite their 2 losses thus far, I think they're talented enough and they're stacked enough, i.e., Fortsky, Caballero, and eventually Tongkara once he starts to really get it together and not get so frustrated on either offense or defense, but I really like their FSA. So I think UST is a lock for that third spot. I'm going to look like a hypocrite right now because I'm about to change my answer for the 4th spot, which I've been consistent with since I started appearing on the Navs Effect right before the UAAP season started, but I'm taking out those 2 schools right out of the equation right now because I think, okay, Adamson and UE are looking really good. We see that they can really harness that outside shot to their advantage while at the same time being able to hold their opponents, in the case of UE, very admirably, putting on a great defensive show against LaSalle. Okay. So Adamson, UE, UST, I think they're going to be in the mix for securing those last 2 spots in the Final Four. Among the 3 teams that are currently at the bottom of the standings right now, I'd have to give my nod to Ateneo, simply because it's Coach Tab and because of the remarkable growth of, spoiler alert, I'm a broken record once again, Josh Lazaro and Sean Tuano. And yes, I'm going to include Jared Bahay there. This young man is emerging as a facilitator and as a clutch performer in the seniors division. I'm very sorry, but I humbly think that NU and FEU are not going to make it. And they're not even going to be close to contending for the Final Four. Why do I say that? I think both of these teams have the same problem, and that is running out of steam because they're not stacked enough, because they're not deep enough. I was celebrating like mad when FEU got their first win simply because that team was a joy to watch.
Sorry, was it because they beat Ateneo? Sorry to ruin your momentum. I just have to ask, was it because they beat Ateneo?
You were a bit choppy there, Naps. I couldn't make out that name of that school that you mentioned. Anyway, so FEU was a joy to watch.
You later.
Because Jordan Bautista, because Joric Bautista was doing his best Jerome Lastimosa. Okay, and Lastimosa is not even from FEU, but damn, that kid was clutch. So that being said, I'm not going to let recency bias overcome what I've seen from FEU in their first 4 games. And that is that, I'm sorry, but they remain largely undisciplined on both ends of the floor, taking rushed shots and making some really bad defensive lapses. So, yes, they're going to upset teams even in round two. I think that much is certain. But I've said it since the start of the season. I think we should just let Coach Sean Chambers cook. And once this young team gets an entire season's worth of experience under their belt, oh, watch out, because if you ask me this question exactly 1 year from now, Nabs, I think FEU is going to be my answer for that team to lock the third spot. Okay, that leaves NU. Oh man, that opening day loss against LaSalle, I think, took some of the wind out of their sails because that was such a winnable game. And we've seen how they've come up close against several of their next opponents. But I think now the reality of the urgency for talent, okay, for roster depth is finally catching up with NU, because as fun as it is to watch their system ball in this league, you need superstars to win you the game in the end, whether by securing a crucial defensive stop or making big baskets just to stay in the game and just to keep up with the other team's closers. Unfortunately, I don't see any of that on the Bulldogs roster, particularly because their FSA has gone down, meaning their interior protection has largely been compromised. And unless Jake Figueroa and or Steve Nash Enriquez will take that next step with haste, with all due haste, for the rest of this elimination round, unfortunately, I don't see NU making their way to the Final Four. Lastly, Nabs, ironically, it's FEU and NU that I've been saying over our past playback episodes, saying that I think they're going to be locked in a fist fight for that last Final Four spot. So, yes, I am contradicting myself right now, but based on empirical evidence, based on observation. So, those are my thoughts.
Excellent thoughts as always, Simone. Now, I'll tell you mine. Right now, the only school I would say is out is NU, and that's by a very small margin. The reason why it's NU for me is because you're starting to see the struggles of not having an FSA, and I've harped on this a lot. The fact they've been in these close games despite not having the Asana is really a microcosm of how good this team has been coached by Coach Jeff Napa, how good some of the players are stepping up. I'll be honest though, two things about NU. Number one, again, the loss of Diazano is huge because having that extra big guy, those extra 6 to 8 points just by having a tall guy who knows how to play in the paint, grabbing offensive rebounds, second chance scoring opportunities, drop off passes, and saving like another 6, 8 points on the other side of the floor just because of how big he is and how he can protect the rim. It's so huge. And if you look at the stats, really, NU in their close losses, that has been the biggest factor. I'll tell you one more thing about NU, though I'm surprised. I thought that either Humamoy or Garcia would quickly and efficiently be able to fill in for the loss of Bakla, and that hasn't been the case. That hasn't been the case. They've looked sloppy sometimes, and that's not a knock on them because they're young players and they're playing bigger roles early in their careers. But Yumamoy and Garcia just aren't there, even combined yet at the level where Baklaan is. And we can see now that Steve Nash Enriquez is obviously a great point guard, but he still can't do it alone, right? Especially at that size where defensively the other teams are targeting him sometimes. And having that extra guy, like what Baklaan was doing, pushing the pace, passing, drop off passes. I know everyone wanted to criticize Kian for his shot making and how he was a high volume shooter, but you see now because of that makeup of what the team was, how they lack offense sometimes. You needed him to do that, and you needed him to do that. And right now, they just lack that other creator. Now, Figueroa has been doing a solid job. Manansala also a solid job. Unfortunately, NU just lacks the firepower. Would it surprise me if they somehow went on like a 2 or 3 game winning streak? It would not. But right now, they're the only team. FEU, I'm high on. And I believe Coach Sean when he says we're going to be a problem in the second round. Now, does that mean that I think FEU is going to go on undefeated 7-0 in the second round? Absolutely not. Heck, they might win 2 or 3 games. But they've been in a lot of these close games. Like, think about it. The only two like significant losses for FEU has been that opener against Adamson, where Adamson vastly outplayed him in the second half, and that game against UP, where UP's been killing everyone. But other than that, 1 point win against Ateneo, a 6 point loss against LaSalle. Before that, the loss against UPS, we mentioned that. But at the same time, too, loss against UE just by 5 points. And then before that, loss against NU, just 2 points. They're losing a lot of these games, and these games are close games. And they're sticking with their opponents. Jorg Bautista's having big games, VJ Perez having solid moments, a lot of growing pains and the learning process as well, obviously. Sometimes it's like they get caught in a late game situation and they're like, oh wait, how do we do this again? How do we close out an opponent? They're learning. But Coach Sean Chambers, I like the way he's coaching this team. I like the energy he's injecting into this team and the community. I like the way Konate has been improving out of it. He had like what 25 rebounds against LaSalle a few days ago. He has been solid. Those two clutch free throws against Ateneo were huge. Remember, this guy's a rookie. He's not a true freshman, but he's a rookie, and he hit those two clutch shots. That takes balls, man. That takes balls to make that shot in that kind of situation. And good job to Konate. FEU, I like their stock. I'm buying FEU stock right now. I think they have a chance to be in it. I don't think they'll make the final four, but I think they have a chance to be in it. Now, the other teams, UE has the fact that UE was able to score that win against LaSalle in a season where we expect LaSalle and UP to beat the opponents, the opposition. That could come down to be very huge for UE's Final Four chances, or at least for them to make a playoff for the Final Four. So let's bookmark that because I think that's going to come back later on in the season and play an important role. Adamson, they have been solid, but they're just up and down. That game against UP was a good microcosm, right? They start a house on fire. They look like a championship contender, and then suddenly, when things aren't going right, you see rush shots, you see the flow of the game not being solid, and they tend to look like a team that is lost and relies a lot of on outside shooting. I don't think Manzano has played to the level I thought he would play yet this season, but let's see. We're only at the halfway point of the season so far. Other teams, who else did we miss? Ateneo, I still think they have a chance to make the Final Four. Right now, I would have them in the Final Four, to be honest. I think the Chris Kuhn injury played a huge factor in why they started off slow, including the tough schedule. But I'm starting to see signs of this team going on a potential second round run. You're seeing Bahay become comfortable. You're seeing Porter become comfortable. And I know a lot of people are criticizing these two because of how they played recently, but I think you're going to see improvement out of them soon enough. And did I miss any school there? UST. I still have UST in the Final Four too. I think they're the third best team in the UAP, but they have a chance of sliding down if they don't work on consistency. They need consistency. That's why I'm eager to see how they bounce back against UP on Wednesday. Are they just going to lay down in the second half like they did against LaSalle? If so, that's not a good sign. Then I would start being worried about UST's Final Four chances, because if that's the case, then they're showing that they don't have that fortitude to compete in this high pressure situations. But if they at least keep it competitive against UP, I would take that as an encouraging sign. By the way, just some news to share. I think we're gonna see Zayn Mahmoud play more starting tomorrow's game against UP. Just a little something to watch out for, guys. And I did get to speak to some members of the UAP and asked if there would be a chance that they could insert like a reserve FSA spot. But right now, that doesn't look like it's going to be the case. Just wanted to point that out. All right, let's get to the next
Navs,
question. Oh, go for it, Simon. Go for it.
hold on, Abs. Weren't you the guy who asked Zayn Mahmoud about certain players that he can or cannot keep up with? And wasn't on this very show on Playback that Zayn Mahmoud said, for the record, that Sean Alter, quote, can't guard me. I waited for months for the payoff of that particular storyline, and Sean Alter did not play a single second in that previous game against Adamson. But damn, I hope this guy starts. I hope this guy gets wag naman 30 minutes. I hope this guy gets significant minutes, and I hope he matches up against Mahmoud so we can really see which of these buddies in air quotes will really outdo the other.
Well, if you remember, Simon, Zayn also said that if LaSalle beats UST, he would go to the game wearing an Alex Konov jersey. I had the photographer ready for that photo, but Zayn was like, hell no, he ain't doing it. So I just wanted to get that out there. Zayn, you got. I hope to see you match up against. Hey, did you see like Zayn go at Alex the moment he saw Alex guarding him? If I see Sean guarding Zayn tomorrow in the game, I'm like, hey, I want to see Zayn go at this guy. But yes, I hope USC plays Mahmoud more. We have been waiting to see what his potential is, and I think there's a great chance that he has the capacity to be not a difference maker right away, but at least someone you see the potential and you're like, oh, I see this guy being good a few seasons from now. Do you agree? Simon, you there? You hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Go
Great.
for it. Yeah, I was wondering, what do you think of Zayn? Do you think he's gonna have the chance to show what he's capable of with more minutes?
Yeah, okay. As for Zayn, I don't think it's fair for us to judge him based on his production, based on his minutes thus far. For one reason or another, he hasn't been in the 9-man, 10-man rotation of Coach Pido. But yes, if we're going to base it on how he's performed, like when he was still overseas, okay, I think this guy has the makings of a well-rounded forward that can hurt the opponent from both inside and outside. But yeah, I really just want to see Coach Pido give him more trust, basically. But of course, he'll have to work hard for it because you have a veteran like Manaytay or even Echo Laure in the lineup, who's of course played more significantly the UAAP. So yeah, looking forward to Zayn Mahmoud's growth in the league.
Fantastic. And by the way, we are going on pretty fast here. It's already almost 9:10 p.m. and we got three more topics to tackle. So this next one, we don't need to explain. Let's just give our answers. You go first. From the players in the UAAP right now, who are the five that you would say are the most quote unquote pro ready? Go, Simon.
Okay. Honorable mentions. Okay. And I'm not going to explain them so that we could let the listeners go crazy. Honorable mention, Jerry Abadiano, master of the mid range. Honorable mention, Jake Figueroa, all around forward. Honorable mention, Raven Gonzalez. I love that kid. Okay. So, from order of most PBA ready to this guy should be playing overseas, I have Nick Cabanero, Portsky Padrigao, Mike Phillips, my boy JD Kagulangan, and of course, one Carl Kevin Kembao.
I think you forgot someone on that list. Do you know who?
Is that guy wearing maroon or like
Yes, yes, a guest on this podcast. I should say.
um okay. I was considering Q on my list, but number one, I need a bigger sample size. Okay, all those guys that I mentioned have basically spent a couple of seasons at least in the UAAP. Um, Look, Navs, we could get back to this question once UP plays LaSalle this Sunday. And that would be a great litmus test, a great barometer for where I think Q can take his game further. Don't get me wrong, I love that more often than not, when there's a miss from the opposing team, more often than not, the scene that's unfolding is Q holding his hands high up in the air with the rock. With that being said, there are certain limitations that I think he still needs to address, particularly in terms of rim protection and lateral movement when he's being attacked on pick and rolls. And I'd like to see that jump shot go up more often. Shoot that thing, Q, with confidence if they're leaving you wide open beyond the arc. But yeah, honorable mention, Quentin Millora Brown.
Quentin Milora Brown is an honorable mention. Interesting, interesting. I like it, Simon. Okay, my turn. And by the way, I just mentioned in the comments I have one name that I think is going to surprise people. So QMB is on my list. He looks like a pro to me. He looks like a pro who could play abroad, to be honest with you. Michael Phillips is on that list as well for me. Michael Phillips this season somehow has taken up the motor mic reputation and the hustle to another level. Sorry, I said I wasn't going to go into detail, but I just had to mention that because he has been incredible this season. And what he did, sorry again, but what he did in that post game press conference after LaSalle's win against was that they played against UST, the prayers for and being vulnerable like that. Just what an incredible human being. Anyway, back to the topic. Kevin Kembao, no need to describe why. I would also put Francis Lopez in that list. I think Francis could be playing in the pros. And my fifth guy is John Abate. Yes, Miles Devesa. You predicted it correctly.
Oh,
John Abate. And not just because he came on the podcast, but yes, John Abate. That guy
yeah.
is pro ready, bro. He's pull up game, a, a big guard who could play a big point guard, but also someone who can slide into the two guard spot, 3-point shooter, steady at the foul line, is not rushed. Some of the moments where Abate looks like he's troubled is when there's a press defense or when they're playing him so uptight, so up close, right? In the pros, they don't do that so much. Trust me, this guy in the pro level is going to be a solid player. Okay, let's quickly get to the next question here. And this one is pretty straightforward. Who is the best FSA in the UAP right now, in your opinion, Simon? Go.
The guy who could have won Rookie of the Year last year if it weren't for a technicality, if it weren't for an unsportsmanlike foul. But thank you, Francis Lopez got it. Precious Momaway. In terms of the eye test, in terms of skill set, and even in terms of numbers, I know Conate's up there with him in terms of being in the top 5 of statistical points for the MVP race, right? But let's put it this way. If the game is tied with a couple of seconds left on the game clock, I am not hesitating to put the ball in Momaway's hands because I know that he's going to create a scoring opportunity for my team. He's that strong, he's that agile, he's that versatile. I really like, obviously, Konate, he's a rebounding machine, he's a rebounding demon. I also like Tunkara. He contributes on both ends of the floor. Of course, I need to give a shout out to my own boy, Kingsley Ododo. Hella strong, an underrated rim protector, if you ask me. But Momaway has the experience, he has the drive, and dare I say, pun intended, the character to really lord it over all the other FSAs in the UAAP.
I'll tell you what, I really wanted to pick Precious. I couldn't do it because of the turnovers. He's my number 2 FSA in the UAP, but the ball security was a factor for me. I'm gonna go OJ or no, I'm just joking. I am going to go. Munti ka na, no?
Muntik na.
Motong Kara for me. I know the game against LaSalle wasn't awesome, but you know what Mike Phillips is? He is the FSA silencer. He is that one guy who can take on FSAs and make FSAs look like neutral local players. And by the way, I like Miles' thoughts here. Mo Konate. And thank you, Miles, for the $99. Konate. I think Konate in a year or so can be the best FSA in the UAP. The way Sean Chambers is coaching that guy, that development from game 1 to now, Konate has improved a lot. But back to the main point, I think it's Tonkara. Tonkara, from all the FSAs, I feel is the best at ball security right now. He has a good face-up game in the post. Not exactly a back-down kind of game, but a good face-up game. He has a jump shot that he'll hit like maybe 43, 44% of the time. I like that he's steady at the foul line. I like that he's agile. I like that he can defend both in the perimeter and in the paint. So yeah, I think right now it's Mo Tonkara. Do you have Tonkara's number 2 next to Momaway?
Yes, because Tunkara is more refined And Tunkara just looks more comfortable when he's on the court. And you can actually already see, this is a good sample size already. You can already see that the guy has signature moves. So when he receives the ball, okay, on the right side of the floor near the elbow, you know that if he's going to jab at you, okay, he's actually going to shoot. Okay, so it's nice that he has that stand-up mid-range game going, and if he can hit that or on a very consistent basis, it might put these other FSAs like in foul trouble. He could eventually use those ball fakes to draw contact or perhaps get them up in the air, drive to the basket, draw a foul, take two shots at the line. Yeah, uh, perhaps Mo Tungkara could follow that mold set by Momoway, or perhaps do it one better because, to your point, he has more than a season's worth of precious Momoway footage to study so that he knows which tendencies to avoid and where he can further improve his game. So these two um, played each other in their respective opening day games, and UST versus UE is going to be lit in round two.
I'm excited to see how much more Tunkara is going to grow. Momoway too. Momoway, if he can really do a better job taking care of the ball, I think he can be the best FSA in the UAP. Okay, so we're down to our last question. This one, I'm sorry, I'm laughing. Tonyo is making me laugh. He just basically said everyone is better than Balogun. You know what? Come on. Balogun showed that he can do a Giannis and go coast to coast against FEU. Didn't you see that, Tonyo? Didn't that make you feel things inside? Didn't that make you feel excitement and shout one big fight? No, I'm just joking. Anyway, hey, Ateneo, I'm telling you guys, don't sleep on Ateneo. Ateneo is going to be better in the second round. I'm telling y'all. Anyway, I have to stop reading our group chat. It's making me laugh too much. These guys, man. Love these guys. They're the best. Shout out to Squishy, Frandu. Last question here for Simon and myself to answer. FEU, a quote unquote problem in round two. As Coach Sean Chambers used to say, we're circling back on this. What do you think, Simon? Will FEU be a problem in the second round?
You know what, Navs? I'm going to say yes because, well, shout out to our good friends Gab, Sam, and Maui, the Boleros. They explained certain eerie parallels between FEU's first game this season and their first win last season, coming off the 0-5 record and then winning against Ateneo. So thank you, Boleros. I was listening to you last night. Um, I think they're going to be a problem insofar as certain Final Four contending teams, which is basically a lot of the competition, a lot of the opposing teams, right, might not see them coming. And that sounds so weird. But I think their talent is really bubbling up from just beneath the surface. Okay? So I think midway through the second round, Coach Sean Chambers' words will prove to be prophetic because that's when we're going to see games that will basically really decide who gets those third and fourth spots in the Final Four. And when you go up against FEU in those games, perhaps you're going to learn what Ateneo learned in their previous game, and that is to not put yourself in a position in which this team is down by just two possessions, or worse still, one possession down, or the game is tied. Because they do have a closer in them. If you'd asked me a couple of months before, I would have said FEU doesn't have a fourth quarter guy. But Joric Bautista, I see you, boy. And I remember why I keep drawing parallels between you and Jerome. Joric Bautista, who is more jacked up, by the way, has that clutch gene that's undeniable. So, if for nothing else, okay, might not look pretty getting there to that point over the first 3.5 quarters, but if you find yourself, if you're a UAAP team in a precarious position and Joric can kill you with the three, that's when you learn the lesson. FEU is indeed a problem.
Excellent thoughts as always, Simon. And I love how active our spectators are right now. Miles, Dance, Luigi, everyone with the quick thoughts. Of course, Luigi Ramirez, now famously known in the Navs Effect community as the guy who says, we believe in Balogun. I like that. We need Balogun believers, man. Luigi, you need to start a club, the Balogun believers. Simon, would you join the Balogun believers club?
I'll think about it.
Of course, of course. Now on FEU, I shared a lot of my sentiments about this earlier, but I do like their potential. I like that Joric Bautista has established himself as the late game clutch option. You give Joric Bautista the ball, he is the season's LJ Gonzalez, and throughout the game, you rely on guys like VJ Pre, Mo Konate, to some degree John Ray Pasaol, but you take him out when he's turning the ball over too much to keep you competitive, and then you gamble on Joric, not literally, of course, but you go with Joric to try and take you home in late game situations. And what he did against that Ateneo defense, my God, Simon, it was like an eat all you can buffet in OT. Sean Kitevis come, guard Joric Bautista. Joric Bautista's like, all right, let me just call a screen, pull up, bang. Chris Kuhn, oh, I'm going to make you dance, Chris Kuhn. Dribble to the left, crossover to the right, spin move, hesitation, pull up, bang, bucket. I forgot who else was guarding him. I think other players guarded him too, but he was taking on defenders. He sized defenders quicker than him, bigger than him, longer than him. It did not matter. Jump shot, jump shot, jump shot, jump shot. Jorg Bautista's the closer. And there will be games he will win games for FEU. There will be games he will lose games for FEU. The famous Topex Robinson quote in press conferences with regards to his LaSalle players. But it is accurate. And at least now FEU kind of sees like a moment where, okay, the pressure is on, the game is on the line, we have the chance to close this out. We know who to give the ball to. Let's let Jorg Bautista embrace the moment and try to win this game for us. And then maybe we'll have a dance-off in the locker room afterwards, and have Mo Panate come in and dance with Sean Chambers. By the way, for those
He
criticizing
doesn't want to
FEU,
dance. He does not want to dance. Stop forcing him to dance, bro. Coach Sean, what are you doing?
Hey, I take dancing over karaoke. Real talk, though. Real talk. I would take dancing over karaoke. But hey, to those criticizing FEU for celebrating a little too early, go kick rocks, honestly. I like when teams are, outgoing like that. They have a personality. They're having fun. Small wins, exactly. Yes, then small wins. Let's let go of the old school mindset. It's always funny to me when everyone's like, oh, they should be humble, they should be grounded, they should be, just because they're dancing in the locker room after the game means they're not humble. That the only way we can, judge whether someone is humble or not. I mean, people on social media sometimes they see one, two things and they're ready to make sweeping declarations about a personality or team or people just using one thing. It's not that simple, guys. Just putting it that way. Again, thank you to the community for joining us. Thank you to our new partners of this show. If you guys haven't heard yet, Finn Cotton is now a partner of the Navs Effect podcast, and these babies are nice. Trust me, they're for everyday wear, walking, chilling. Can't wait to wear them again. And members and spectators of this podcast and the community will get a discount. Simon, I see you laughing about something. What's so funny? Are you reading the comment section?
No, I'm not reading the comment section. I'm listening to you. I'm watching you. I'm looking at you. And this is the first time I've seen you. I mean, like, from watching you afar, like covering games and even like seeing you in events. Bro, drink decaf. Okay.
I don't know. I kind of like the energy.
You're
Yeah, the two coffees in the span of 30 minutes. That's like what? How? I don't even think how many ml of espresso shots. Hey, coffee better than alcohol? Is that true or false? You guys in the comments let me know. Team coffee or
In
team? What are
certain
you, Simon?
context.
Team coffee or team booze?
Team coffee all the way, bro. I'm sorry. I really don't drink except like very rarely in a year, if at all. So I'm team 3-1 all the way.
I think I just found out the secret to a great podcast episode. Just down two coffee, down two flat whites with brown sugars before you record, right? By the way, we do have to show respect to the community. They want us to acknowledge the newly found Balogun's Believers Club, aka BBC. And apparently it is gathering members. Miles Devesa has joined as the president, apparently. Denzel Chung has joined as the treasurer. I am not sure how much I would trust him as your group's treasurer, especially if there are many gambling websites now that can be utilized just for pro basketball, pointing that out, just for pro basketball. Let's get that out there. Um, but yes, the Balogun Believers Club is apparently taking on applicants right now. Simon, should we send you an application form?
I'm gonna look at it, and I'm gonna look at it.
Okay. I think you made your point clear there. And by the way, good suggestion here by Attorney Jong, our friend. In between games ideas, FSA one-on-one tournament. Oh, okay. You know what? I like that. Let's answer that right now. FSA one-on-one tournament. Who would win? By the way, one-on-one is different from the team concept, the 5-on-5s, the 3-on-3s. One-on-one is different. Who would you take in a one-on-one competition?
What sport are we talking about?
Bro, basketball, UAP, FSAs.
Oh, okay.
Come on, you
I
need
mean,
two coffees.
no. I mean, I know one-on-one, obviously, but one-on-one basketball, one-on-one boxing, one-on-one rock,
Oh,
paper, and
basketball,
scissors,
bro.
one-on-one
Basketball.
gymnastics. Okay,
Unless you want to
basketball.
see Balogun and Tongkara and Mamuway do what Carlos Yulo is doing. Do you want to see that?
I'd actually rather see that than a one-on-one tournament between these FSAs in basketball.
All right, but go for if it was a one-on-one basketball contest, who would you pick?
One-on-one. Okay. I think Matic, it's gonna be Mamaway and Tungkara in the finals. And oh, I just realized that turnovers are still possible even in a one-on-one situation. So yeah, I think Tungkara takes that one by 3 or 4 points.
Interesting. Who would I pick? I think one-on-one I'd go Momoway, actually. Momoway. I just think Momoway's intensity would overpower in a one-on-one competition. And that intensity might lead to turnovers, like you said, but I feel like turnovers are easier to deal with in a one-on-one concept because now you're just chasing one guy instead of 4 or 5 other guys in a fast break opportunity. I don't know about Agunane being a finalist in this contest. Henry looks like he needs a season more of development. And that's no knock on him. But I feel like Henry could use one more season. Anyway, we're going to call a wrap on this podcast shortly. But before we do so, I have a new segment, Simon. It is called the Finn Cotton Standout Player of the Week. And yes, I decided to surprise you with this. Of course, we're partnering with Finn Cotton, like I mentioned, and we want to acknowledge a UAAP standout because we are talking about UAP today. A UAAP standout that we felt had maybe not necessarily the best performance, but the most noteworthy performance for our own reasons. So you've been going first throughout this episode. I will go first this time. My Finn Cotton UAP standout performer of the last week is Joric Bautista. And that's simple. Clutch cojones. Give me the ball. I will take us to this win, even if we choke the late game fourth quarter lead. And we will dance in the locker room after. So, my first ever Finn Cotton UAP standout of the week is FEU's Joric Bautista. How about you, Simon?
Okay, I am put on the spot, and I'm usually a guy who thrives in improv and spontaneous situations. So I'm now gonna take a look at a list of people that I have to figure out if I'm gonna name them in the next few moments. And okay, I'm gonna go ahead and say that our Finn Cotton standout player of the week, in my humble opinion, is none other than JD Kagulangan, for the simple reason that you should watch his face every time UP screws up on offense or on defense. If they start turning the ball over multiple times, if they start jacking up shots that should be nowhere close to reality, Kagulangan just says, umalis kayo sa paningin ko, akin na yung bola, ako nang bahala dito. And there was that one game the previous week where he held the ball so many times and yet 0 turnovers. So yes, shout out to all the loyal fans of our boy, Maymay. Don't call him Maymay anymore. JD Kagulangan, and I happen to know one of those fans up close and personal. So Kagulangan, hey.
All right. Okay. Now it's time for our Life Corner segment. Simon, what is your life corner installment of the week?
All right, quite simply, it's the 1st of October, and we are but 4 days away from the culmination of World Teachers Month, which is a month long celebration declared by UNESCO. So, I think from the first time that you and I touched base, when I first communicated with you, I think I already flexed my teacher card. So, I spent 10 years in the education sector in various roles like high school English teacher, debate coach, English subject area coordinator, even assistant principal. And this industry remains near and dear to my heart, okay? Not only because I happen to be married to an educator, but it also runs in the family. Both of my grandmothers were teachers. I have aunties and cousins who are mentoring young minds and hearts as we speak. So for all the teachers out there, whether the teachers of my children, okay, my former colleagues, my wife's colleagues, okay, the school where I used to work in, and basically all of my friends working in the education sector, and all those millions of you noble souls out there in the world doing the often thankless job, but a job that we should all be thankful for because they have molded us inside and out, pun intended. Thank you. Advance happy World Teachers Day to all of you. And Navs, make sure, okay, on the 5th of October, okay, make sure that you greet your favorite teachers because, of course, we wouldn't be where we are without them. And of course, I do have to greet as well my parents and my wife's parents because let's not forget, our parents are our first educators after all.
Absolutely. Very well said, Simon. And I'm so happy that's what you chose for your Life Corner segment. It's a great reminder to always know how big of a role teachers, whether that's college, grade school, high school, whatever level, masterals, or even if not in an official educational institution, teachers, mentors, these are people who help, in most cases at least, help pass down the knowledge and the information to the leaders of tomorrow. And I'm very grateful that you shared that. Shout out to you. Advance Happy Teachers Day to you. Dens wants to know, when will I teach? I will be honest, I have a desire to be a professor one day. Not sure where, I'm not sure for which subject, but it's something in my bucket list that I do want to do, even if it's just for like a year or so. And who knows, maybe it'll be long term. So hopefully, and when that time comes, yes, maybe Simon can help me out. Let's see,
Go
my
for it,
life.
bro.
Agree, agree. My life corner segment. I was actually sick the last 2 days, including today, this morning. Yeah, it was the first time I had a fever since last October. It's fever season for me. Come October, maybe something about the spooky Halloween vibes. But it just every year I get older, it feels like these flus just get worse and worse. I mean, look, when I was a teenager and I had the flu, I was like, okay, I'm gonna go out for a 5 kilometer run and sweat out the fever right now. That was how I used to deal with fevers. Now I'm like, oh no, no, no. Staying in bed, putting my jammies on, putting a blanket on top of me, you know getting all cozy and watching my favorite shows. But of course I couldn't do that because I had work to do the last 2 days. But it just reminded me in its little way how we should be very thankful for our health, how we have our bodies, we have this life, we have our lives, and how every moment should never be taken for granted because we never know when it's going to end. We never know when we get the chance to chat up with our friends in our community about UAP basketball, right? So every moment we have the opportunity to do this, it's something that we should be thankful for. And health is wealth. Everybody always prioritize your health. I want everyone to remember that because at the end of the day, that's what we have for ourselves, and that's the best way we take care of ourselves. I like that nice one, homie. Ask this, not the UAP question, but what did you think of the Beda Litron game? Just quick thoughts. Awesome job, my son Beda. I love how
Oh yeah, I thought it was my earbuds working up again. Yeah, I think you
My
were
bad,
muted
my
earlier.
bad. I muted myself there accidentally, but I was saying I like how Sahonia did a good job of hitting that big shot, but at the same time, his decision right after to take that contested shot when he had the teammate open drew the ire of Coach Yuri. And that's something I'm bookmarking again in the future. Will Sahonia's decision making in the future help or sink Sanbeda? But Puno, holy crap! He had a
The
coast to coast
swag.
move where he went behind his back, scored, going through like three or four defenders. I mean, my God, this guy just. We're talking about pro level players. This guy's going to be a pro one day. Him and Liwag in the NCAA at these beasts. Did you watch the game, Swan?
Look, I have to admit, I don't watch NCAA on the regular. I don't know what came into me. Maybe it was the all the incessant members of our group chat saying, "Watch this, watch that. Look at Sahonia. Look at Estrada." So I said, "All right, fine. I'll take a look at what the fuss is about." And I'm like, "Man, these guys are blowing me away. That Puno boy, that guy has swag. That guy has balls, and yeah, he has size. And PBA, please pick this guy up in the first round. He deserves it."
Absolutely. Can't wait. I think Puno might stay a few years. Oh, trust me, Sunbella loves this guy. We'll see. Or is it his last season? I'm actually not sure. Should double check on that. Anyway, thanks everyone for joining. Part 2 of this 10 essential UAP questions episode will take place tomorrow, Wednesday, with Nico Rocha. That's 1:30 p.m. before the UAP games begin. So stay tuned for that. I see Dens decided to drop a little hint there. I've heard that to some degree as well. We'll see what happens. We'll see. But Sanbeda is making an effort to keep this guy, and they love this guy. And I hope he stays in Sanbeda. I really do. VJ Perez, loyal to FEU. Let's mention that right now. Look, anything can happen in college basketball. Like we said, flexibility. I just dropped something by accident. Of course I did. But flexibility in college basketball is always there. So, but at least for now, it's nice to see these guys stay loyal to their programs. I'd love for that to continue. Simone, anything you want to point out before we close this? Anything that you came out with that you want to share or anything you have planned?
I'm planning to watch that UP-UST game with incredible gusto tomorrow. And of course, I should mention as well, even in my current full-time job, shout out to my company, I realize that I am still wonderfully portraying the role of educator and mentor. So the learning never stops, the teaching never stops. And hey, I learn from you every day. I learn from our colleagues at All Star every day. Even in this role of mine as a contributing writer, there's so much to learn from these fine people at All Star and even in our group chats. So yes, education all around. And thank you for the words of wisdom.
Well said. Good night, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Much appreciated. Catch you all soon.
Deuces, I'm out.